The king wanted her broken, but she shattered his arrogance with one punch. Blood dripped from King Aldrich's split lip as he rose from the throne, his laughter echoing through the silent arena. The crowd held its breath, waiting for the execution order. Instead, he grinned. Good, he purred. Now we begin. The gates burst open, and the warrior who stepped forward wore her brother's face. Please wait. Before we start, tap that iCard button in the top right corner and smash that subscribe button. Right now, hit the notification bell so you're first in line when new stories land. All right, let's dive into the story. Chapter 1. The arena sands shimmered under the harsh noon sun, heat rising in visible waves that distorted the faces of the jeering crowd. King Aldrich lounged on his obsidian throne, a goblet of wine dangling carelessly from his fingers as he surveyed the spectacle below. His royal armor, gilded and ornate, caught the light with every lazy movement, a stark contrast to the figure standing motionless at the arena center. Serena Vane didn't fidget, didn't sweat. The legendary warrior stood like a statue carved from shadow, her form-fitting black armor accentuating every lethal curve of her body. The helmet's visor hid her face, but the tension in her shoulders spoke volumes. Around her, the crowd's taunts grew louder, more vicious. Think she'll cry when she kneels? Bet she pisses herself first. Vane's finally getting what she deserves. Aldrich raised a hand, and silence fell like a guillotine. His voice dripped with mock concern when he spoke. Serena, my dear, you look uncomfortable. Is the armor too tight? Or perhaps you're realizing how small you truly are? No response, not even a twitch. The king's smirk faded. He set his goblet down with deliberate slowness, the clink of metal on stone echoing through the silent arena. I gave you an order, knight. When your king commands you to kneel, you kneel. Serena's gauntlet hands flexed once, twice. When she finally spoke, her voice carried the weight of a drawn blade. I kneel for no man. A collective gasp rippled through the crowd. Aldrich's advisors exchanged nervous glances, but the king merely leaned forward, his jeweled rings glinting. You forget your place, Vane. You're not champion here. You're not even a knight anymore. You're just another disobedient bitch who needs to be put down. The insult hung in the air like smoke. Serena's helmet tilted slightly, as if considering something. Then, with movements too fast to follow, she crossed the distance between them in 3 strides and drove her fist into Aldrich's smug face. The impact cracked through the arena like thunder. The king's head snapped back, blood spraying from his split lip as he tumbled from his throne. Wine splashed across the marble steps like cheap stage blood. For one breathless moment, the world stood still. Then chaos erupted. Guards surged forward, weapons drawn. The crowd screamed, some in horror, others in perverse delight. Through it all, Serena remained perfectly still, watching as Aldrich slowly pushed himself up from the ground. The king touched his bleeding mouth, examined his crimson-stained fingers, and did something no one expected. He laughed, not the cold chuckle of a man about to order an execution. A genuine, belly-deep laugh that shook his shoulders and made his eyes water. When he finally caught his breath, he waved the guards back with a careless gesture. Oh, Serena, he wheezed, wiping tears from his eyes. You never disappoint. He stood, straightening his ruined tunic with exaggerated dignity. But did you really think this was just about humiliation? Before she could respond, the massive arena doors groaned open behind her. The sound of heavy footsteps echoed across the sand, accompanied by the unmistakable rasp of steel being drawn. Aldrich's grin turned feral. Now we begin. Chapter 2. The footsteps stopped. A hush fell over the arena as the newcomer stepped into the light, his silver-plated armor gleaming like a fresh wound against the dark sands. The crowd's murmurs died mid-breath when he removed his helmet, revealing a face that made Serena's blood freeze in her veins. Well, sister, Cale Vane said, his voice dripping with false warmth, still punching above your weight, I see. Serena's gauntlets creaked as her fists clenched. 5 years. 5 years since she'd last seen that smirk, those cold gray eyes that mirrored her own. The scar running down his left cheek was new, a jagged reminder of the night he betrayed their order. "You're supposed to be dead," she spat. Kale rolled his shoulders, the massive greatsword on his back catching the sunlight. Disappointed? Aldrich wiped blood from his chin, his grin widening. "Oh, don't look so shocked, Vane. Did you really think I'd waste this spectacle on some common mercenary?" He spread his arms wide. Family reunions are so much more entertaining. Serena's breath came in short, controlled bursts. The arena walls seemed to press closer, the jeering crowd fading to distant static. Every instinct screamed to attack, to drive her blade through Kale's throat and be done with it. But the way he stood, relaxed, confident, set warning bells ringing in her skull. "You're working for him now?" She jerked her chin toward Aldrich. After everything, Kale's smile didn't reach his eyes. "I work for whoever pays best. You always were the sentimental one." With a metallic hiss, Serena drew her sword. The blackened steel shimmered with faint runes along its edge. "Sentimental enough to give you one last chance. Walk away." For the first time, Kale's expression darkened. He unsheathed his great sword with practiced ease, the massive blade whistling through the air. "Still giving orders, little sister? That's why you never understood. Some of us prefer freedom over blind loyalty." The crowd erupted as the siblings circled each other, their movements mirror images of lethal precision. Aldrich had retaken his throne, leaning forward with predatory interest as he sipped fresh wine. "First blood," Kale taunted, testing her with a feint. "Or shall we make this interesting?" Serena didn't bother responding. She struck like lightning, her blade a blur of black steel aimed straight for his heart. Kale barely parried in time, the force of the blow sending sparks cascading across the sand. "Still quick," he grunted, countering with a sweeping slash that forced her back. "But you always were predictable." They clashed again, steel shrieking against steel. The crowd's cheers faded beneath the rush of blood in Serena's ears. Every block, every strike carried the weight of years of betrayal. She could see it now. The subtle changes in his style, the mercenary's edge to his movements where once there had been discipline. "You trained with the Dusk Raiders," she accused, barely dodging a vicious elbow to her temple. Kale's grin turned feral. "Among others. Turns out the world has much to teach when you're not shackled by oaths." A sudden shift in his stance was her only warning. Serena barely raised her sword in time as Kale's greatsword came crashing down like an executioner's axe. The impact drove her to one knee, the sand grinding against her armor. Aldrich's laughter rang out above the crowd. "Oh, this is better than I imagined." Kale leaned in close, his breath hot against her visor. "Tell me, sister, does it hurt? Knowing everything you fought for with a lie." With a roar, Serena surged upward, using her momentum to throw him off balance. Her armored fist connected with his jaw, the satisfying crunch of bone echoing through the arena. "Only thing that hurts," she panted, "is seeing what you've become." Kale wiped blood from his mouth, his eyes alight with something dangerous. "You haven't seen anything yet." Chapter 3. The arena sands burned beneath Serena's knees as she struggled to catch her breath. Kale circled her like a wolf, his greatsword carving lazy patterns in the air. Blood dripped from his split lip, but his grin never wavered. "You're slowing down, sister," he taunted, twirling his blade with mocking ease. "All those years playing night finally catching up to you?" Serena's grip tightened on her sword. Her muscles screamed, her armor suddenly feeling like a prison of black steel. But she refused to show weakness. Not to him, not to the leering crowd, and certainly not to Aldrich, who watched from his throne like a man enjoying his favorite play. She lunged, feinting left before driving her blade toward Kale's ribs. He parried, but she'd expected that. Her armored knee slammed into his gut, forcing the air from his lungs. Kale staggered back, coughing. Still full of surprises, he wheezed. Serena didn't let up. Her next strike came faster, her sort of black blur aimed at his throat. Kale barely dodged, the blade grazing his cheek and reopening an old scar. The crowd roared as blood trickled down his face. Aldrich clapped slowly from his throne. Marvelous! The prodigal brother bleeds just as easily as the rest of us. Kale wiped his cheek, his smirk fading into something darker. You always did fight dirty when cornered. Serena adjusted her stance, her breath steadying. You taught me that. For the first time, something flickered in Kale's eyes. Regret? Anger? She couldn't tell. But it vanished as quickly as it appeared, replaced by cold determination. Then let me teach you one last lesson, he growled. His next attack was brutal. No more taunts, no more theatrics, just raw, relentless force. His greatsword came down like a hammer, each strike driving Serena back, her boots digging furrows in the sand. She blocked, but the impact rattled her bones. Another blow, and her sword arm went numb. A third, her helmet flew off, clattering across the arena floor. The crowd gasped. Serena's face was exposed now, her dark hair plastered to her sweat-slicked skin, her sharp features set in a snarl. But what made the whispers spread like wildfire were her eyes, burning with fury. Yes, but also something else. Pain. Kale hesitated, his blade lowering slightly. You never could hide what you were feeling, he muttered. Aldrich's voice cut through the tension like a knife. Oh, how touching. The traitor has a heart, after all. He rose from his throne, his grin widening. But let's not forget why we're here. With a snap of his fingers, the ground trembled. Serena barely had time to react before the arena floor beneath her feet cracked open, a yawning chasm of darkness. Kale's eyes widened. Aldrich, what the hell? The king's laughter was the last thing Serena heard as she fell into the abyss. And then silence, darkness, and something waiting. Chapter 4. The fall seemed to last forever. Serena hit the ground hard, the impact driving the air from her lungs. Her armor clanged against stone, echoing through the pitch-black chamber. For a moment, she lay there, gasping, her body screaming in protest. Then she heard it. A low, guttural growl. Something moved in the darkness. She rolled to her feet, her sword still gripped tight, though she could barely see its outline. The air smelled damp, metallic, like old blood and whetstone. A pair of glowing eyes flickered to life in the blackness. Then another, and another. Come on, then, Serena muttered, shifting into a defensive stance. The first creature lunged without warning. A hulking, twisted thing with too many limbs and teeth like shattered glass. She barely dodged, her blade slicing upward in a desperate arc. Black ichor sprayed across her face as the thing screeched and recoiled. More eyes appeared, more growls. She was surrounded. A familiar voice echoed from above. I'd say I'm sorry, but we both know that'd be a lie. Serena looked up. Kale stood at the edge of the broken arena floor, peering down at her. The bastard was smirking. You set me up, she snarled. He shrugged. Aldrich's orders. But don't worry, I'm not leaving you down there. A rope tumbled down, stopping just out of reach. Not yet, anyway. One of the creatures lunged again. Serena sidestepped, driving her sword through its skull. It collapsed with a wet thud. Generous of you, she spat, kicking another beast away. What's the catch? Kale's grin widened. Tell me why you really came back. Another creature charged. She cleaved it in two, black blood splattering her armor. You know why? To kill Aldrich. Liar. Kale crouched at the edge, resting his arms on his knees. You had your chance years ago. Why now? A massive shape loomed behind her, something bigger than the others. Serena barely had time to turn before it slammed into her, sending her skidding across the stone. Her sword clattered out of reach. Kale sighed. Tick-tock, sister. She scrambled to her feet just as the beast charged again. This time, She met it head-on, driving her armored fist straight into its gaping maw. Bones crunched. The thing howled. "Fine," she roared, ducking under a swipe of its claws. "I came for you." Kale went very still. The creature lunged again. Serena grabbed one of its twisted horns and wrenched, flipping it onto its back. She drove her knee into its throat, silencing its snarls with a sickening crack. Panting, she looked up at Kale. Happy. For a heartbeat, he just stared. Then, with a slow shake of his head, he dropped the rope the rest of the way. "Grab on," he muttered. Before Aldrich realizes, "I'm not following orders." The remaining creatures circled, hissing. Serena snatched her sword and leaped for the rope. As Kale hauled her up, the last thing she saw below were those glowing eyes, watching, waiting. And then the darkness swallowed them whole. Chapter 5. Kale hauled Serena over the edge of the broken arena floor, both of them collapsing onto the sand in a heap. The crowd had vanished. Only Aldrich remained, lounging on his throne with a bored expression. Disappointing. The king sighed, swirling his wine. I expected her to die screaming. Serena rolled to her feet, sword still in hand. Blood and black ichor streaked her armor, her breath coming in ragged gasps. "You sent those things to kill me." Aldrich smirked. "Oh, Vane, they weren't there to kill you." He set his goblet aside. "They were there to test you." Kale stood slowly, his great sword still sheathed. His eyes darted between Serena and the king, tension coiling in his shoulders. Serena wiped sweat from her brow. "Test me for what?" Aldrich rose from his throne, his jeweled rings glinting in the fading light. "For the real fight, of course." He snapped his fingers. The ground trembled. Then, with a deafening crack, the arena walls split open. Something huge stirred in the darkness beyond. Kale's hand flew to his sword. "What the hell is that?" Aldrich spread his arms wide, his grin manic. The future, a monstrous claw, black as obsidian and lined with jagged spikes, tore through the stone. Then another. The creature pulled itself free with a roar that shook the very foundations of the arena. Serena's blood ran cold. It stood 3 times the height of a man, its body a grotesque fusion of armored plates and writhing tendrils. Its face, if it could be called a face, was a mass of glowing red eyes and a maw lined with rows of needle-like teeth. Aldrich laughed. "Meet my pet." The beast's many eyes locked onto Serena. Kale grabbed her arm. "Run." She shook him off. "No." Aldrich clapped his hands. "Kill her." The monster lunged. Serena barely dodged, rolling aside as its claws gouged deep furrows in the sand where she'd stood moments before. She came up swinging, her blade biting into its thick hide, but the wound sealed almost instantly, black ooze bubbling over the cut. Kale cursed, drawing his greatsword. "Aim for the eyes." The creature lashed out, its tendril-like appendage whipping toward him. Kale barely blocked, the force of the blow sending him skidding backward. Serena ducked under another swipe, driving her sword upward into the beast's underbelly. It screeched, recoiling, but again the wound closed too quickly. Aldrich watched from his throne. Sipping wine like this was just another afternoon entertainment. Tiring already, Vane? Kale spat blood onto the sand. "We can't kill it." Serena's grip tightened on her sword. "Then we kill him." Her gaze locked onto Aldrich. The king's smile faltered, and for the first time, she saw fear in his eyes. Chapter 6. The monster roared as Serena broke into a sprint. Not toward it, but straight for Aldrich's throne. The king's smug expression shattered into panic as he scrambled to his feet, wine goblet clattering to the ground. "Stop her!" he shrieked to his guards. Too late. Serena leaped onto the raised platform, her sword flashing in a deadly arc. Aldrich barely dodged, the blade slicing through his ornate cloak instead of his throat. He stumbled back, his crown slipping sideways as he fumbled for the dagger at his belt. "You stupid girl," he hissed, backing toward the edge of the platform. "Kill that beast, or we all die." Behind them, Kale shouted in pain as the monster's claw grazed his side, sending him crashing into the arena wall. Blood seeped through his silver armor, but he forced himself back up, greatsword trembling in his grip. Serena didn't take her eyes off Aldrich. "You first." She lunged again, but the king was surprisingly quick. He sidestepped and slashed with his dagger, the blade scoring a thin red line across her cheek. The taste of copper filled her mouth. Aldrich grinned. "Still think you can." A deafening crash cut him off. The monster had turned its attention to them, its massive claws smashing through marble columns as it charged the throne. Kale's voice carried across the chaos. "Serena, move." She dove aside, just as the beast's talons shredded the platform where she'd stood. Aldrich wasn't fast enough. One claw caught him across the chest, sending him flying into the stone steps with a sickening crack. The monster loomed over the fallen king, its dozens of eyes pulsing with unnatural light. To Serena's shock, Aldrich didn't scream. He laughed, blood bubbling at his lips. "Foolish creature," he gasped. "I'm your master." The beast hesitated. Kale staggered to Serena's side, pressing a hand to his bleeding side. "It's not attacking him." Aldrich coughed, dragging himself up on one elbow. "Of course not. It's bonded to me." His bloody grin turned manic. "To my life force." The truth hit Serena like a physical blow. Kale's grip tightened on his sword. "You're not controlling it, you're feeding it." Aldrich's laughter turned wet and ragged. "And now it's hungry." The monster's head snapped toward Serena and Kale, its maw dripping black saliva. Aldrich collapsed back onto the steps, his breath coming in shallow gasps. "Finish them, my pet." The creature roared, but then something unexpected happened. Its glowing eyes flickered. Its massive form shuddered. And as Aldrich's breathing grew weaker, so did the beast. Serena and Kale exchanged a glance. The monster wasn't just bonded to Aldrich. It was dying with him. Chapter 7. The monster staggered, its massive form flickering like a dying flame. Each labored breath from Aldrich's broken body made the creature weaken further, its obsidian claws scraping uselessly against the arena floor. Serena wiped blood from her lips, her sword still raised. "It's tied to his life," she muttered. "Kill him, and it dies." Kale limped forward, his greatsword gleaming in the fading light. "Then let's finish this." Aldrich coughed up blood, his manic grin never fading. "You think this ends with me?" He gestured weakly to the trembling beast. "There are more. Always more." The monster let out a pained shriek, one of its many eyes bursting like an overripe fruit. Black ichor sprayed across the sand as it collapsed to its knees. Serena stepped toward Aldrich, her blade hovering over his throat. "What?" The king's laughter was little more than a wheeze now. "Power, girl. The kind your precious O's could never give you." His gaze flickered to Kale. "Ask your brother." He understood. Kale's jaw tightened, but he said nothing. With one final, rattling breath, Aldrich's body went still. A deafening silence fell over the arena. Then, the monster let out an unearthly wail, its form crumbling like ash in the wind. Black tendrils withered, armored plates cracked apart, and within moments, all that remained was a pile of smoldering bone and shadow. Kale exhaled sharply, lowering his sword. "It's done." Serena didn't move. "No, it's not." She turned to face him, her grip tightening on her weapon. The crowd was gone, the arena in ruins. But the real fight had only just begun. Kale met her gaze, his expression unreadable. "You gonna kill me now?" The wind carried the stench of blood and burnt flesh between them. Serena hesitated. Then, with a slow, deliberate motion, she sheathed her sword. "No." Kale blinked. "After everything I've done?" "You were right," she admitted, her voice quieter now. "About the oaths. About Aldrich." She kicked at the dead king's limp hand. "But you chose the wrong side." Kale studied her for a long moment before nodding toward the shattered arena gates. "Then let's fix that." Beyond the ruins, The first hints of dawn painted the sky in hues of gold and crimson. The kingdom was still out there, broken but not beyond repair. Serena took a deep breath. Together, Kale smirked, wiping blood from his brow. "Try to keep up, little sister." And with that, they walked into the light. And that was the end of the story. Comment below if you want the next chapter, and hit that like button. Please subscribe, turn on the bell, and as always, keep the last light burning.